Vadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sixth verse onwards we will chant. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha mayyarpita mano buddhihi mame vaishyasya samshayaha abhyasa yoga yuktena cetasa nanugamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanuchintayan kavim puranamanushasitaram anoraniyan samanusmaredyaha sarvasya dhataram achintya rupam aditya varnam tamasah parastat. So, whatever form is seen or visualized or thought of at the time of death, the sixth verse says, that is what one will gain. But you see, it's not so simple as that. The Shastra may say that, Puranas will say that, Shastra will say that. But then, often, at the time of the end of life, that which preoccupies the mind are things that are not resolved. Unresolved things only will preoccupy the mind. They will preponderate. What will happen to the children? Will they get along after I go? They never got along as long as you were alive. So why are you worried about what will happen after you go? I have a will. Will they respect the will? No, they won't. Okay? And whatever you have left behind, all your millions are no use to you. So whoever it is benefiting, let them fight it out. What is it to you? Oh, but I just want everybody to get along all the time, and this is the empire I have built, this is the family I have kept together all this time. This is unfortunately what preponderates. And so, to think that I will myself to have noble thoughts at the time of death is a far cry. Very far cry. Because if the thoughts have been so mundane and so ignoble throughout the life, what will happen? Same thing will come. What will happen? How will it this thing? What will go on? What will happen to the business? What will happen to this? What will happen to that? This is all the thoughts that come. So Adi Shankara says here and elsewhere also in the Bhashya that it is very difficult to suddenly have a thought, a sudden wonderful thought at the time of death, if wonderful thoughts are just generally difficult for the person to think of. If the person is pessimistic and to suddenly have a happy thought is not easy. Even to desire Swarga, Swarga means heaven. So even to want to go to heaven, you can't suddenly think of it at the last minute. That should be a kind of a mulling desire. So like I said yesterday, what comes true is not the desire, the last desire, but the most strong desire. The strongest desire. Not the last one. Because the strongest desire is that which will come at the end. Remember the story of Jada Bharata. So the deer, oh dear, that's what happened. Next life, deer. So therefore, this is a kind of a wake-up call to start upasana now itself. To put the mind on a diet of Shastra, really. Because there are many kinds of upasanas, we'll be discussing that because this whole chapter is, as I said in the introduction to the chapter, it is upasana heavy, unlike many other chapters. Other chapters, upadesha focused, this is upasana focused. So, if I don't get into the habit now itself of commanding a calm and tranquil mind that will listen to me. Usually what do? We listen to the mind. What does the mind listen to? Raga Dvesha. Mind listens to the Raga Dvesha. Sense organs respond to the Raga Dvesha. Everybody does Ashtanga Namaskar to Raga Dvesha. Chittam, emotions respond to Raga Dvesha. Then what else? The Ahankara also becomes a slave of Raga Dvesha. We have to reverse this. That is why Krishna is sitting in the chariot. He is the Buddhi, the Buddhi that guides the one who is the owner of the chariot, the Jiva. Here Arjuna. Guides him, Arjuna, which is the Buddha, which is the Ratha Swami, which is the owner of the body, mind, sense complex, guides the Jiva on the road of Dharma. The road of Dharma leads to moksha, indirectly of course, prepares one for moksha. That is the idea. And so the horses are the sense organs, because like horses, the sense organs like to graze in the field of the sense objects. This is all Kathopanishad, Ratha Kalpana. They like to graze in the field of the sense objects. And then what happens? Munch, munch, crunch, crunch, go here, go there. Oh, but it's only grass. It's not grass. For horses it is grass. For you it is not grass. It is all the things you can grasp. Okay? Yeah. Everything you can grasp. And all sense objects, all kinds of things. Get this, get that. And the horses have to be managed. The reins are the mind, pragraham. So the whole thing should go in one direction. Otherwise the horses are going here and there. And the mind is going somewhere else. The mind cannot manage the horses. The buddhi cannot manage the mind. The ahankara slumps and sits in the chariot. This is what happens in the body. Hopeless, helpless. Jiva. So, usually, this is the whole life. One is at the service of Yogakshema. Yogakshema is the polite name for Ragadvesha. So, one is at the service of strong prejudices and what are they called? Preferences. And that is the orientation. So, at the time of death also what? Ragadvesha only will come. An estranged relative comes. I don't want to see you. The person is about to go. Still cannot forgive. Even at the Antima Kshana, last minute, cannot forgive. Why did you do this to me or to my grandchild? I cannot forgive you. Don't want to look. Talk to the hand. This is the kind of... This is what it is. So, this is not okay. And so, the mind has to be trained. So, upasanayaha phalam. There are many phalani, many fruits of meditation, etc. are there. But this, to prepare the mind, so that according to the Shastra, whatever I'm musing on all the time, and whatever is the object of the strongest musings, that is what I gain. Moksha, 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 moksha. Moksha. Yeah. Nice. Very nice. So the mind, to prepare for this, has to be put on a diet of what is called upasana. Because otherwise, some random thoughts will come. Random raga, dvesha comes. At the end of life, it is, especially if the death is not sudden or in the sleep, lot of punya if people have done, they just don't get up. Or sitting in front of the TV, finished, gone, and something like that. So many times we hear. But that's not often the case. Often in and out of what? Hospitals. And in and out of various clinics, specialty clinics. From neurologists to podiatrists, from head to toe, all kinds of specialists one sees one after the other. This is usually the trajectory. Feels weaker and weaker. And in that situation, always in pain. Always in pain. And so once I asked somebody, like, where is it hurting? They said, it's much easier to tell you where it is not hurting. An elderly person. So in that situation, it is very difficult to command the mind at that time. But however, if the mind is already seasoned, then it is very easy to do, as a habit, to dwell on whatever it is made to do. Habits are hard to give up, which is nice for us, but they are very hard to form also, which is not so nice for us, but we will get through that. So how to form this habit of putting the mind on a diet of meditation? Because the prophecy was given in verse number 6. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajyante kalevram tam tamevaiti kaunteya. The same thing they get. Whatever they think of at the time of death means the strongest thing they think of, they get. So how to make sure that one is not thinking of money at the time of death? What a waste. You keep seeing dollar bills. $100 bills, $100 bills. Next life, bank cashier. Yeah. Lot of money you keep counting. You keep putting in, you keep putting it in that counter. At least in India it makes that noise. I don't know about here. So you put it in the counter and then it will make that noise. It's you're handling what, thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not a single one belongs to you. Even by mistake, if $1 is missing, first they'll come and catch your throat. What a life. And so that we don't go thinking like this, or food, 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 because the person can't eat anything at the last minute, is full of tubes. And so food, jalebis, samosas, all these things. Today we had samosas. And so all these things one keeps thinking of. What is the next life? Cook, chef. Yeah. Michelin chef. So, to avoid all this, we have to put the mind on a diet of upasana. So it slimmed down a little bit. Ragadvesha slimmed down. Okay? And it looks very nice and svelte. And it is very easy to, not just to die with such a mind is easy, but to live with such a mind is easy. We are not worried about death. We are worried really about life. So the death is just an excuse as a motivator. Only in this culture, the death is a motivator. In all other cultures, you get put off when you have a whole chapter focused on death. Nobody wants to even listen. Here, the death is a motivator because we have another life. It is not the end. And also, we can have a say over what that other life looks like. So this becomes very, very interesting. So the next one says, Tasmat, therefore. What therefore? Kasmat. Because of the fact that at the time of death, remembering whatever one gives up the life, then one reaches that which one has thought of. Tasmat, that being the case, Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara. Mam Anusmara. Sarveshu Kaleshu. Therefore, Sarveshu Kaleshu means what? 1 minute per day. Huh? No, just checking if everybody is awake. Okay? All the time. In all periods of time. Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara. Smara means think of, remember. So let's say you remember a dear friend who visited you, and now the friend is not visiting. They have gone to some other place, but they visited you. A dear friend visited you and you remember. What do you remember? Oh, how they look, you remember, correct? What else do you remember? How sweet they are, how generous they are, how loving they are, how friendly they are. All this you remember. Okay? So, if all this you remember, the remembrance is in keeping with your knowledge of them. Correct? An unknown object, can you remember? There is no re there. Re means again and again. An unknown object, can you remember? Not at all. Because you don't know it. So therefore, Mam Anusmara is a tall order. Mam Anusmara means Anu. The word Anu is there. Shastram Anu. According to how I have been described in the Shastra. Anusmara. It's not think of me. Contemplate on me. The smru here is don't remember. It's not about remember. Contemplate upon me in keeping with whatever the teacher has taught in the Bhagavad Gita class, in the Upanishad class, according to the teachings. Remember or contemplate. Remember what you have been taught and contemplate in accordance to that. No other meaning fits. Remember means, what is this Bhagavan? I don't know. How to remember? How to remember something I don't know at all? Cannot remember what I don't know. And so therefore here, remember means first study my nature. That's the only way to know the nature is through the Shastra. We have seen this. Only way to know the nature is through the Shastra. Study the Shastra, and in keeping with the Shastra, remember. Remember in the sense, Anuchintayan, in the next verse it's going to come. So contemplate. In the beginning, one is like a cow. Very quickly, you graze in the grasses of the Upanishad, and then afterwards sit down to chew the cud. 4 stomachs the cow has. And sometimes it is hard to remember we don't have 4 stomachs. Especially with the kind of cuisine at the ashram. Wish we had 4 stomachs, but we don't. So 4 stomachs it has. So from the stomach that is closest to the alimentary canal, it brings the grasses out and then chews it properly, leisurely, and then sends it to stomach number 2. It enjoys organic wheat grass juice a second time. And this is exactly how the student of Brahman is. In the beginning, hungry for knowledge, excited, nibbles in the grasses of various Upanishads. Kathopanishad, munch. Kenopanishad. What else? Mundakopanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, crunch, munch. And then after that, oh, the retreat is already over. Oh, okay, what to do now? Chew the cud. Ruminate. Bring it back. That's why the notes are helpful. You look at the notes and you have Arthaspuranam. Arthaspuranam takes place when you look at the notes. Arthaspuranam means exactly like a photograph or like a video, it passes through the eyes. Aha, this is what was told, and this is what I was taking down at that time. You refer to the notes and you have like a photographic, videographic flash of that moment of teaching, of those moments of teaching, and then it goes in deeper. So no longer you think of Bhagavan as a object, as a guy in the sky. No more. What is Bhagavan? That awareness, that consciousness which is the only source of existence and which is limitless, which is not away from me because it obtains as I am. That is what Bhagavan is. And that has to be understood repeatedly, and to such an extent it should be understood that whenever you need, you should be able to recall. That recalling is the remembrance. The recalling is the remembrance. Just like your friend, you know your friend. That's why even in the absence of your friend, what can you do? You can recall. You can recall the friend. And then, so then what happens? Then Bhagavan becomes a habit. Very nice habit. To have Bhagavan as a habit, very nice. Otherwise, so many other habits. This person is an idiot, criticizing habit. Oh, you know what that person did? Gossiping habits, criticizing habits, manipulating habits, and all these other habits that keep one habitually oriented, abhimukha, to the world and its divisions. Bhagavan, as a habit in the beginning, is also a habit of division. But because of the force of the Shastra, I learned to assimilate Bhagavan as a indivisible entity, as non-separate from the entity which is I, and so Bhagavan becomes a non-dual habit. That takes time. You cannot say, immediately I want this. It will not happen. It's all slow steps. May not be slow, but it is step by step by step. You cannot skip the steps. You cannot say, I will go straight away to this. You cannot do that. In matters of spiritual growth and Shastric study, there is no double promotion. In school, sometimes they push children one more grade because they are very clever. Here in the Shastra, there is no double promotion and there is no bypassing Ishvara. There is no Ishvara bypass. It is not there, it is not recommended. Ultimately, we keep in view that Ishvara is myself alone. The whole Jagat is me. We keep that in view. But you don't really compromise the stages and the steps that one has to undergo. So, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, whenever you want, whenever you have time, and whenever you are not preoccupied with other things, bring back the wheat grass juice of the Shastra. Bring it back. Bring it back and enjoy it repeatedly. This should not be a chore. If it is a chore, that means something is interfering in the Shravanam, and the Shravanam, the listening, has to be interrogated properly. If it looks like a chore, it should not be a chore. What should it be? It should be just easy and delightful. So first one starts off after keeping a little bit of time for this exercise. It's like taking the mind to Ishvara gym. Okay? Yeah, hanging with Ishvara and lifting the Ishvara weight. Treading Ishvara on the mill. Everything is Ishvara gym. So, in the beginning, if you spend 1.5 hours at the gym, you will have to go to bed for 2 days. Okay? You will be so exhausted. You will be so exhausted. Can't do anything else. The legs will all start to buckle under, and you can't, because you have been on every single machine, and then the body gives up. So in the beginning, you just do one round of something. Yeah, first you try to lift one of those weights. If you don't succeed, go to the lower one. That also no. Okay, lowest one. Then the smallest one. And you pick that up. Sense of accomplishment. 5 rounds you do. Any muscle grown? No. Only groans. No muscle has grown. Then what? You can't overdo it. You keep it and walk away. Next time, next day, same time, you do it again. Then you do it again. Then you do it again. This is how it is done. Can't suddenly do everything. Upasana, meditation is also like that. And frequently people say, I can do anything. I can do Shravanam. But you ask me to meditate, I want to run away somewhere. And why do I want to run away? I can't sit still. And then then I ask the person, how long did you try to meditate? 1 hour. Naturally, it's a setup for failure. Okay, what should I do? Try 1 minute meditation. OMM. The acronym is very nice. Om. This you have to be careful, okay? Somebody told people that she only recommends people to meditate for 1 minute. That's not what I'm doing. And that I'm saying it is to begin with. Okay? To begin with, you have to start somewhere. I'm not saying only meditate for 1 minute. To start with, if you are not meditated and you want to familiarize yourself with the ways of the mind and allow it to settle, it's easier to do it for 1 minute and have a sense of accomplishment, so the ahankara will pat itself on the back. Shabash, it will say. it will pat itself on the back, and the next time you sit, it will cooperate because it's only 1 minute. You can do anything for 1 minute, really. And you keep the timer on the watch and you just sit, knowing that you are not captive. In 1 minute, the ding, 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 the alarm will go off. And until then alone, you have to chant the mantra and or contemplate. You have to make friends with the mind. You have to listen to, because you have been listening to it all along. And suddenly you try to show who is the boss. It's not going to listen, because it is convinced you are the servant, okay? It is convinced that it is you have to listen to it. So to reverse that, you have to go along with it. Sometimes you have to trick it. Sometimes you have to cajole it. Sometimes you have to blatantly bribe it. Sit and meditate, and then I'll give you a wonderful treat. And then you have to give it the treat. Otherwise, tomorrow it will not meditate. So like this, slowly one goes on this path. So tasmad mam anusmaran sarveshu kaleshu. And here is a combination, very nice combination of karma yoga and upasana together. Very nice, rare occurrence in the Bhagavad Gita. Because if you read the verse, what does it say? Mam anusmara yudhyacha. Fight, thinking of me, because that was his job. Kshatriya, dharma, and of course let's not forget they were in the middle of a big battlefield where this upadesha, the teaching, is taking place. So first, which tells us something important, that before embarking on a program of practice or program of upasana, meditation, before that, the karma yoga is a important preparatory device. Without karma yoga, upasana will not succeed. Why? Karma yoga itself is a form of bahiranga upasana, bahiranga sadhana. It is a kind of a walking, talking, working meditation. Karma yoga. So, how is it like a walking, talking, working meditation? Because everything is done as a offering, as a prayer. Everything that I do, everything that I think of, all the things that I plan, as we have seen in the first chapter 3 and 4, we have seen this. And everything I plan, everything I want, everything I pursue is done with a worshipful attitude. And that worshipful attitude makes it a prayer. And even though karma yoga is done in relation to the world, correct? Karma yoga is outwards, it's not inwards. Even though there are other people involved, there is a meditative quality to it, especially when one advances in karma yoga. There is a silent meditative quality to worshipfully approaching the work. The work itself becomes a meditation. Talking becomes a meditation, because I am contemplating about appropriate speech, what to say, when to say, how much to say, and most importantly, what to not say. That's the most important. It's like an arrow. The arrow which is directed towards the target will definitely hit it once it is released. Once it is released, you cannot say, "Aa jao, wapas aa jao, come back. I didn't mean that, come back." Can't do that. So, all this is a quiet, without a certain quietude of the mind. Karma yoga also gives quietude of the mind. It gives chitta shuddhi, and chitta shuddhi means a cleansed heart, cleansed of ragadveshas, filled with shamadama. That is chitta shuddhi. And a quiet is a quiet heart. A heart free of ragadveshas, or ragadveshas are at best pacified and put aside. One has grown out of them, then that mind is already quiet. And meditating in the form of work. The person is working, maybe outwardly interacting with people, saying, yes, I want this, I would like this, give me this, or this is not the way to do it, whatever they are doing. But then, very quiet. There is an inside quietude that becomes the precursor for this word, for this verse. That's how Lord Krishna can say Sarveshu Kaleshu, because one is already having and living in Ishvara awareness due to Karma Yoga. Already that practice is there. The outward practice of appreciating the universe and my own work in the universe as Ishvara has already been mastered, and now this is just an extension to the inward practice of being with Ishvara Sarveshu Kaleshu at all times. This is how one progresses. That's why I said we cannot skip the steps. So, Mam Anusmara. Anu here, Shastram Anu, meaning according to how it has been taught in the Shastra. Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha, and fight. Fight and not think of me, contemplate upon my nature as you have been taught. Where have I been taught? Arjuna cannot ask. Why? We are in the 8th chapter. That's why. So, all the ways in which, especially the 7th chapter, para prakriti, apara prakriti, all this becomes a lot of fodder for contemplation. And how that contemplation should take place is given here in the next line. Mayi arpita manobuddhihi. Mayi arpita manobuddhihi. This is Bahuvrihi. Be the one for whom the mind and intellect are offered to Bhagavan. Be the one for whom the mind and intellect do not belong to him or her, but in fact are Bhagavan's properties, Bhagavan's tools. Then if you do that, we are just looking at the translation here, we'll go into depth. Mameva eshyasi asamshayaha. Asamshayaha means samshayaha atra na vidyate. There is no doubt that you will attain me. So this Mayi Arpita Manobuddhihi, meaning that, generally what happens is that there are two trajectories. Ishvara's flow, unobstructed, grand, keeping in view everything, the whole universe, keeping in view the needs of the whole universe, the karmic trajectory of all beings, keeping in view how the universe should unfold, what all the developments should take place, how it should fold back. All that knowledge is already there when the universe is set into motion, like unrolling a carpet. For that easy it is for Bhagavan. Just with the ease with which you unroll the carpet, and no, you don't have to follow it. You know that it will just unfold and then stay flat. Similarly, Bhagavan also knows that I have set this into motion. And once it is set into motion, what will happen? It will follow this logical trajectory of my sankalpa. This is Bhagavan's flow. Then the jiva has her own flow. Why? Because I have free will. And so what will I do? I will say, first thing I will say, I don't like your flow. I'm going to have my own flow. I'm going to do my own thing. What is your own thing? I want to stand out. What are you going to do to stand out? Dye my hair green. And then what will happen? People will get confused whether you are a person or a tree. That's all will happen if you dye your head green. So, this is the jiva's problem. Let me out, let me out. Ishvara is boring. And everything, what is this flow? And that I have to listen to this flow all the time. I want to be free. I want to have my own moksha, not the moksha that you have planned for me. I want my own moksha. And what is your own moksha? Please define. Not to listen to you. That is my moksha. In fact, Jiva wants moksha from Ishvara. You are so boring. All the time, dharma, 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 dharma. What is this? Half the time you are just harping on dharma, other half the time you are harping on karma, 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 karma. Dharma, karma, dharma, karma. I want to have some korma, okay? And so, I want neither dharma nor karma. So, vegetarian, okay? So, not the other kind. So, what is this? He's just keeping on harping, harping, harping. I just don't want to, I'm sick of Ishvara. That's why I have my own body. If I had to become one with Ishvara, I wouldn't have asked for my own body. That's why I have my own body. I have my own mind. I have my own way of doing things. Who says this? A 2-year-old. Cannot even say the word shoes and says, I want to tie my shoes. I saw I had gone to somebody's house. Cannot even say what I want to tie. But I want to tie my shoe. I want to tie my shoes. The boy was yelling, not even letting the parents get even close. Not successful, can't even manage the laces and everything. Small hands, a small buddhi, small brain. How can it do it? Can't do it. But I don't want help. This is what, this is what the 2-year-old says. This is how it is. That in the mind of the 2-year-old, its ego is everything. Share, what's that? Sibling, what's that? Why was it born? Take it back to the hospital. It's only me. Everywhere I look, I see me. I am Ishvara. The 2-year-old is Ishvara. Only its own ego matters. Nothing else, nobody else exists. In a 2-year-old, this quality, this attribute is so cute. It's actually very adorable. In an 82-year-old, not so much, okay? Not so much. That is what has to change. This is what has to change. So there are 2 trajectories. Ishvara's will, and I can't say my will, my won't. Because whatever Ishvara wills, I won't. And then people say, how do you know that this is my path? It's very simple. What else is going for you? Nothing. Okay, this is your path. What other offers you have? None. Okay. What other options are there? None really. Okay. Keep quiet. So this is not evident to people who are called balaha by the Kathopanishad. Na samparayah pratibhati balam pramadyantam vittamohena moodham. deluded by flashy things like money and everything it can buy. Pramadyantam means keeping on making the same mistake all the time. Sarveshu kaleshu, making the same mistake. At least make new mistakes. Then at least there's an opportunity to learn. But the person makes the same mistake and then cuts out for oneself one's own path away. Nothing is away from Ishvara, but in the mind of this jiva, away, far away from Ishvara. Why? Because Ishvara becomes an authority figure, like mother, like father. And who is the jiva? The rebel. And so, why do I go into such a big explanation? Because that is the opposite of the expression Mayyarpita mano buddhihi bhava. Here, the Lord Krishna says, there are no two flows. There is only one flow. Are you going to go with the flow or not? There are two kinds of people. First kind of person says, nope, not going to go with the flow. I have my own flow. The other one says, I don't know where is the flow. I don't know how to understand what is the flow. I don't know what is my part in the flow. Somehow I would like to go with the flow, but I don't know where is the flow. I don't know what is the flow. This is all some, antenna problem, okay? The transmission is not being received properly. So in the olden days, even now, in some places in rural India, grandfather is watching TV. And the teenage 12, 13-year-old grandson is sent to the roof, to the terrace, because that's where the antenna is for the TV. And he will go like this. Are you seeing anything? No, more to the left, more to the right. And then finally, now I can have the picture. Come down, enough, don't touch it. So like this, it's an antenna problem. I'm not able to pick up what is very much blatantly obvious sitting right in front of me. I am at a loss to pick it up. Why? There is a block. The Shastra describes it as a kind of a cataract. Ajnana timirandhasya jnana anjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Unto that Guru my namaskars, my salutations. Why? Because the Guru I never knew was an eye surgeon. How? Removed the cataract of ignorance. The cataracts of ignorance were removed by the scalpel of knowledge. The Mahavakya is very sharp, and so the scalpel of knowledge removed the thick cataracts of ignorance, because of which I could see clearly. What? The flow. Okay, that's what we are talking of. The flow. The flow looks different, depends on what my part in the flow is. But usually, sorrow, fear, diffidence, hesitation make me not understand the flow, make me resist the flow. And sometimes one thinks, what can I do? This flow is so huge and there are so many people following it. And I am so small, so imperfect. And I am not doing anything at all. So thought the small chipmunk. When the Rama Setu was being built, Rama was building a bridge from India to Sri Lanka, the remnants of which are still there. And so all the Vanaras, don't call them monkeys. Naro va nava iti shanka. Yeah, there is a doubt. Are they humans or not? That is what it is. So all the Vanaras, Hanumanji's friends and relatives, were carrying huge boulders. They were strong. They were just playing with the boulders and setting them. The chipmunk thought, I will also try to do something. All it could carry in its mouth was small, little, not even pebbles, powdered pieces of stones, little things. And then it sat on a tree, very despondent. It was crying. Lord Rama came. Before he appreciated everybody else, he went to the squirrel. What's the matter? Why this long face? Squirrel, I think it's a squirrel, but here I'm always corrected and told it's a chipmunk. Okay, all right. Chipmunk. People have a chip on the shoulder about this. All right, chipmunk. And so the chipmunk answered, this is my situation. If I were big like these fellows, the bridge would have already been built. But I can only carry small, small powdered stones. And Rama says, actually, that is the cement. That is what is holding the big stones together. You are contributing so much. Really? Yes. And Rama petted the chipmunk. And that's why the chipmunk has 3 stripes. Those are, if you want to know what Rama's fingerprints are like, look at the chipmunk. Every chipmunk has Rama's fingerprints. This is the belief. So sometimes one resists the flow because one feels so wretched about oneself that one cannot contribute. One doesn't know what to contribute. I am inadequate. The inadequacy overpowers the person and one doesn't know what to do. This end of the continuum. The other end of the continuum, I am off. I am pushing off of here because I have my own flow. Why should I join your flow? So these 2 continuums are very dangerous to gaining moksha as is taught in the Bhagavad Gita. Because even if I say I am no good, that is also not good for moksha. Even if I say east or west, I am the best and I am not going to follow your own flow, that's also divisive. So, Mayi arpita mano buddhi means I have the prayer, may there be less and less of me. May there be more and more of you, Ishvara, preponderating, predominating, residing in me as me. More Ishvara, less Jiva in me. More Ishvara means more accommodation, more patience, more compassion, more presence, more of a giving nature, less holding back, less fears, less sorrow, less insecurity, because I am just going with Bhagavan's flow. And that is what is called Mayi arpita mano buddhihi. That is what is called, not anything else. And if you have this, if you are able to be in the flow, after having overcome the terrible twos of resistance, fears, and rebellion, then let us talk. Because then upasana is very easy, because you are already in the flow. What disturbs the upasana, what causes disturbance, which is what? Vikshepa. The word for disturbance is vikshepa. What causes vikshepa is thoughts of my own flow. That is what causes vikshepa. So then vikshepa is mastered, and then that is when everything becomes easy, including meditation. And this is what is going to be said in verse number 8. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. That was for me. Okay, so Abhyasa yoga yuktena, endowed yuktena, being endowed By what? Abhyasa yoga. Abhyasa yoga has two meanings. One is karma yoga, is called Abhyasa yoga. Another one is the practice of meditation itself. If we recall chapter 6, there it was told, Yato yato nischarati tatas tatas niyamyetat. So whenever the mind goes away, what should you do? Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. This repeated bringing back is also called Abhyasa because Lord Krishna uses this word. What does he say? Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena manaha grihyate. The mind is managed. The mind is caught by Abhyasa and Vairagya. So that Abhyasa, endowed with this Abhyasa of managing the mind, endowed with the Abhyasa of Karma Yoga, Yuktena, becoming an expert in it, then what? Chetasa, with a mind that is an expert in that, and this Chetasa should be repeated again. Na anyagamina Chetasa. Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena Chetasa. 1, 2. Na anyagamina Chetasa. Anyagamina means going everywhere. What? The mind. Chetas. So, the mind that is going everywhere, here, na anyagamina, not going anywhere. By a mind that is not going anywhere means what? That the mind which has a staying power. So, many things here are pointed out as needed for meditation. What are they? So, a practice of Karma Yoga, practice of being able to stay with the meditation, and then and a practice of developing, cultivating a mind that has a razor-sharp focus. Then, in this manner, anuchintayan, he Partha, anuchintayan, O Arjuna, thinking thus, anuchintayan, chintayan, contemplating, anuchintayan, contemplating in accordance to how the upasana, etc. is taught in the Shastra, according to the teaching in the Shastra, contemplating on Ishvara as the truth of oneself. Then what happens if I do this? Paramam divyam purusham yati. Yati, goes. Not here goes, gains. What do they gain? Paramam purusham. Divyam. Divyam usually means celestial, but here it means the self-effulgent self. The self-effulgent self one gains. One gains the self as the self-effulgent self is already gained. So what does it mean one gains? One gains as the truth of oneself, Ishvara. One understands that this self-evident self is nothing but Ishvara. And that is called Paramam Purusham. Because the word Purusha has two derivations. The first one is the one who sleeps. When? All the time. Where? In the city. Which city? In the citadel of this body-mind-sense complex. Why is this fellow sleeping all the time? The sleep of Ajnanam. Atma Ajnanam. Not the little snoozes one enjoys in Vedanta class, okay? That is exempt from this discussion. So, sleeps all the time. Why? How? Sleeps all the time because of the tamas of ajnanam, ignorance. Ignorance is like a sleep. And then that is the first meaning. Puri shete. Purau ushati. So many derivations are. Purau ushati iti purushaha. So the one who dwells in the city, the one who sleeps in the city with 9 gates. And this is first meaning. The second meaning of Purusha is same word, Sarvan Purayati iti Purushaha, that which fills up everything, that which completes everything, that is Bhagavan. So first Purusha is who? Jiva, full of complaints. The one who complains in the 9-gated city when he or she is not sleeping, complaining. So then the second Purusha is who? Ishvara. That's why Paramam Purusham Yati. So if you say Purushaf Purushaha, side by side it becomes a Mahavakya. Jiva is equal to Ishvara. This Purusha is no separate from that Purusha. Once this ignorance has been tackled, once this Purusha understands the derivation of that Purusha, then there are no two Purushas, there is only one Purusha. Paramam Purusham Yati, Anuchintayan, contemplating upon me, in keeping with the views of the Shastra, the person gains me. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.